Hello everyone, this is Surya from Document 360 team and I'm the co-organizer of today's webinar. First of all, thank you all for taking the time of your busy schedule and joining us. So today, we are excited to host Robert Delwood, who is the lead API documentation writer from Walmart Global Tech, with us to present the topic, the art of API documentation best practices for writers. To give you a small intro, Robert has more than 18 years of experience and specializes in developer to developer documentation. He has written Microsoft documentation for kernel level device drivers, application manuals for the military, and much more. So I hope you'll be able to discover various best practices, for crafting a clear and effective API documentation by the end of the session. Also, there'll be a Q&A session after the presentation, so I would request all of you to post your questions on the Q&A platform within the dashboard, so Robert, can answer the same at the end. So, Robert, with that, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thanks. Well, I want to thank everyone for letting me be here today. It's definitely my honor to do this. So we will be talking about the about best practices for API documentation writing, although with a slightly different skew, and I'll be limiting it to 7 best practices. There's a lot that can be said here, and I'm going to try and just pick the biggest points first. So a bit about me first. So I am all three, but a programmer, a writer, and a program writer. So I'm a programmer. I've been a titled developer for a while. I am a trained tech writer. I actually got started as a tech writer. But I found out early in my career that there were some companies that wanted the experience and details that a programmer could get and write to other developers, and that's called a programmer writer. I've been a programmer writer for a long time. Another name would be API documentation writer. So I've been fortunate to work at some pretty cool companies, Microsoft, NASA, and Walmart now. So the standard disclaimers apply. These are my opinions, and while I like to think that these are good opinions based on experience, but they're definitely not the only way of doing things, and your individual experiences may be different. This is just a reminder. Writing documentation is easy. Anyone can write documentation. Writing great documentation, that takes effort, and that's where we're going. And what I mean by great documentation is that the information that's presented is so clear, so unambiguous, and so easy to implement that there is no room for misunderstanding. It's got to be clear, to the point, and the developers have to walk away knowing that what they're doing is right and that they're in the right direction. That gets to be a little bit complicated. So, as I just mentioned, a API documentation is a complex project. There's a lot to be aware of at all times. You're writing to a very diverse crowd. Everyone thinks that API docs are purely for developers, and that's largely true. But even within that, you have a range of developers. They go from the junior beginner developer to the senior level developers and architects. Now, the interesting thing is even though there are programmers out there who are top notch and on top of their career, you still are teaching them something. They may know development, but we're teaching them our aspect of our APIs. Excuse me. So we do we will always have an advantage over our audience. But we're also writing to other people such as project and product managers. These are people who want to read our documentation to get a feel of how complex our API is, what the versatility, what it can do. But we're also writing to executives, C-suite readers who may want to know more about what they're investing the money in, or what they're about to invest in. So the overarching goal, and I'll get to this in a moment, is to learn the theory, and everything else will fall into place. And I'm going to present seven ideas along those lines. So the overarching goal here, as I just said, is you learn the theory. The rest are details. So what I mean by that is API documentation writing is an art. It's not a science. There aren't rules. There's not only one way of doing it. In fact, I have always felt regarding API documentation that something has always been missing. That whatever the final best point of API documentation is for the community, we're not quite there yet. There's still some improvements to be made. There's some tools that can be made. So in other words, it's an ongoing search for the best way of doing things. So I'd like to say that API writing can be summarized into a bunch of individual rules. Write it this way and include this and that, and that you would get to the endpoint. Unfortunately, rule-based writing like that just doesn't work. First of all, there's too many rules, and you'll never be able to memorize or remember all those rules, and it creates a very rigid that approach creates a very rigid, very inflexible set of documentations. Instead, I stress to everyone that if you learn the big goals of what you're trying to do, then everything else just falls into place like that. So for instance, if you each API is different, which means each API audience is slightly different, which means each API documentation suite has to be a little bit different. So learn your audience. Are they hardcore developers? Are you writing like device drivers or Chrome plugins, or is this going to be for system administrators to automate some tools or create dashboards and whatnot? Learn who your audience is. Learn the purpose of the API. Like I said, is it hardcore? Is it a little bit lighter? There's an API out there called a Chuck Norris Joke of the Day API. It's one call, and it does exactly that. It just returns a Chuck Norris joke. And yes, that's on the extreme low end of API, but still illustrates my point. Learn what the API does. Learn a direction to go. Are you is the product intended to be to create something from scratch, applications or web smartphone apps, or is it a system plug in to an existing software? Real often there's companies out there that have a huge monolithic cloud-based application, and their APIs are designed to introduce tools and workflows into the process, extending it. And always keep in mind that you go with the most important points first. So if you were limited to expressing one fact, what would that one fact be? That's what you want to put first. So I'm taking a slightly different approach to best practices with this learn the theory approach first. So a couple things to keep in mind. So in keeping with learn the theory, there's a couple things to understand. Readers don't read; they skim. No one will ever actually read your documentation, and that's a weird thing to say because we're writing the documentation. We think we're going to produce the best documentation in the world. The readers here are mostly the developers. I would say that although I said anyone can read the doc, realistically about 90% of your audience are going to be the developers. But understand that they will only skim the document, and even at that, we're lucky if they skim. If they use a find, they can now get to anywhere in the documentation in a click. And if they're using an external find on the web, if they're doing a Google search for something, they don't even have to be in the document at the time that they're finding the stuff. So they're going to come in from everywhere, and they're going to be looking for one specific piece of data. They're going to be looking for what the second parameter is, if the what data type a parameter may be, or what a value for the parameter. I go one step beyond that and think that just presenting the format of the parameter is what they're looking for. So for instance, a phone number. There's probably a dozen different formats for phone numbers, depending on parentheses, spaces, and hyphens. If you present just a phone number format, that may be enough of what they're looking for. Don't make them use the reference. Again, this is a funny concept because we're writing documentation to be read, ostensibly to be read, but there are things that we can do that they don't even have to look at the reference. So here I've come up with an idea. Everyone's heard is docs as code. Well, if you use code as docs, you short circuit the having them to even look at the reference. And what I mean is code as docs. A very good example here is field names, using the parameter names themselves as documentation. So if you come up with a very clear field name, such as number of pallets shipped, you have a very good idea of what the parameter does and what the format is. Number of parameters shipped, probably a number. You don't ship half a pallet yet. They have to be whole numbers, so that makes them integers. And they have a fighting chance now to understand the what the parameter does without having to look at the documentation. So the implications of readers don't read, they skim, is that you want to have short sentences. Short sentences are much more skimmable than long terse ones. And I'm even okay with breaking some rules of grammar in that a sentence can you can have one sentence in a period, in a paragraph. So for example, the introductory sentence of a field name, for instance, I insist on being a short sentence and standalone. This call does X. This parameter does X, period. And they can skim that in a very quick time. Put spaces between paragraphs makes it much more readable much more readable and easier to visually parse. Put the most important information first. So again, repeating what I said earlier, if you could convey only one fact or piece of information, that would be the sentence. Put it above the fold. This is a journalism term and refers to the old newspapers, which are folded in half. Put the most important information above the fold on the screen so that they don't have to scroll down to find it. So and I like once a developer is on my page, I like keeping them on my page. I don't want them to have to link away to find information. I don't want them to have to go somewhere else, because as way leads unto way on the internet, they never come back to the original page. So what that means is when you link, you always link to new pages if you have to link at all. Keep one difference between tech writing and API writing is that it's okay in tech writing to link to click away to a common source. That's how information is reused. You say, oh, see this page where it's all referenced. In API writing, keep them on the same page, which means you may have to redundantly repeat information on different pages. That's an odd concept because no one likes the perceived amount of maintenance in doing that. But the overriding goal, keep them on the page and present all information right there, I think is more important. You write for yourself. So what this means is you're writing so that you yourself understand the topic. If you don't understand something, that's justification to stop right then and there and learn about it. You write as if you're explaining it to yourself. So that does actually two things. One, it gives you a much deeper understanding of your own product. The more you understand the product, the more detailed and detail-oriented your documentation is going to be. Plus, the second thing is the audience will only know what you know. By definition, if you don't express the concepts clearly, if you miss important parts of a concept, that's what they're going to read. So you yourself have to know it to be able to explain it. So you write for yourself, explaining it to yourself, so that you get a deep understanding of the product. So an important concept to tech writing groups, and I've been a lead in a lot of groups, and one thing is pretty consistent, pretty common when I work with these groups. The writers just write about the documentation. And we need to take a more extensive, more expanded scope. I've always said we are paid by the company, but we work for the client, which means everything we do has to make a good developer experience for the audience. And there's a couple of implications here. If you don't like something, you have an obligation to push back on that. So if you don't like something in the code, you're allowed to push back to the devs and try and change it. So you need to see yourself as equal to the developers. You have different groups, you have different responsibilities, but you are no less a partner in this process than developers. I can't stress this enough. A lot of writers seem to just accept whatever developers say to them, and that's not the case. We have a special relationship with the clients that we need to improve. So our specialty is presenting information to the clients, and we will present information any way we can if it makes the client developer experience better. That's our specialty. So and our specialty is just that developer experience. So we're not just writing documentation anymore. So there's a couple of implications. There's a couple of implications of this. A very common instance are field names. I don't know why, but in-house developers usually pick the worst field names possible. I've seen in my experiences, they'll have like PCB pre-review, pre-rev doc. No one knows what that means. So it's our job to create a better developer experience is to have clear field names. A minute ago, I said that this is a code as docs approach. So some common instances here, maybe the first one on the list, page no. Okay, there's no sense in abbreviating number. So one of my rules is absolutely no abbreviations at any time. If it means page number, have it say page number. Again, gives the clients a fighting chance to understand what the parameter does. And the last thing they want to do is sort of have to guess what no means. Is it no page? Is it a page number? No, spell it out. So you can approach the devs and say, I would like this change to page number. Phone. For instance, I see this a lot too. Phone is very ambiguous. So make it clear. Client phone number, the delivery address phone number, delivery phone. These are all very clear, or these become much more clear to the audience. ID, for instance, I again see this a lot. ID stands alone, and it's hard to understand what it refers to. So spell it out. Client ID, process ID, delivery number ID. Always spell it out. So no matter what context they're in, they have a chance at understanding it. Now, my most common comment about this is, oh yeah, in context, ID will be clear. Probably, maybe, perhaps, could be, I don't know. They might have to guess, but why qualify it at all? Spell it out, client ID. Remember too, they're searching for things now, so they may not come across a context. They may not see what if it's in a JSON block. They may not see what the JSON block is about. They'll look it up and find ID, and that doesn't tell them much. Spell it out. I see DESC a lot for description. Spell it out. Make it clear. Spell out all acronyms. Max length, maximum length. Spell it out. And some get cryptic. UOM I see a lot. Unit of measure. Again, you're writing. This is one of the aspects that you're maybe writing to a junior developer on this. So don't make them guess. Unit of measure. DAP. This one's funny. I came across this once, and no one knows what it actually meant. It's been in the documentation for a long time, and the original meaning is the original literal meaning of it is something that no one knows. Now they know what it does, and they know what the values are, but they don't know what DAP actually means. That's a bad sign. Strings for numbers. I don't know why developers do this. Using a string to represent a number is a bad practice in several ways. One, be cautious, be considerate of the server time. Converting a string to a number is expensive on the server end. So we should write. So the developer shouldn't even have to have done this in the first place. I think it's sloppy coding to be frank, but it doesn't help our developers. Again, we're about the developer experience. It doesn't help our developers to see a value marked as a string. Remember that when developers write code, they usually have to put a data type in a strongly typed language such as C# or .NET. They have to put something in front of the variable name, int, float, in object. By calling it a string, they don't know what to do. They have no information. Could be 5, but it could also be 5.5, which makes it a float. It could be money related, which is handled differently. So if you ever see a string that represents a number, you can push back on that. And the last one I've listed is just case. Case. I've seen too many times that they have a list of valid values, on time, arrived, late, but one of them, leg time, is in lowercase, and that's a problem. You don't know if the call is case sensitive, in which case leg time would be a problem because it's different than the other ones. It would have to be lowercase. If it's case insensitive, then as writers you could change that to uppercase yourself. But remember, one of our goals, or keep in mind rather, one of our goals is a predictable experience. One of the aspects of not having to look up documentation is, can they predict what the value is? So in this case, if they suspect that there was a lag or lag time associated with the call, it would be reasonable for them to come up with lag time in all caps to be consistent with the other with other ones. If that's not the case, then we're just ticking off our clients. We're doing nothing more than just annoying them. So those are examples of pushing back. But the problem with pushing back is, if we get to do it in the PR process before it's merged into the code, we can change these. Once it's been merged, it's really part of a contract we have with the clients, and that generally is not changeable after the fact. So part of the process is to change our process and back up our involvement into PRs, into into developer meetings. So you can see that our scope is way wider now, or should be way wider than just sitting at our desk writing documentation. Another important aspect is to write better APIs. You need to read others' APIs. So go out to the web and find as many APIs as you can and look at them. I really miss the programmable website. That was a collection of tens of thousands of APIs in one place. Unfortunately, 2 years ago they closed the site, but there are other sites around that list APIs. So go out, look at others' APIs. See what you like about their APIs, see what you don't like about their APIs, and then just improve on both of those. If you like something, use it, but you can also make it better. If you dislike something but it has value, go ahead and use it, but make it better and improve it. The idea is you want your you want to introduce your style, your idiomatic way of writing into the documentation. So one, you own it, and two, it sounds much more natural to the audience. Also, keep in mind that an API can be extended in its definition. Everyone thinks of an API as a single document that we're all familiar with. So understand, an API is anything that teaches you how to make these calls. So a textbook is an API. Watching videos is an API of the sort, and of course print medium like the web. So look around at these different sources. Textbooks are APIs, but they tend to be a little more textual, a little more reading about it. Some people like that. Look at those books. The idea is to go out and see what other people are doing, and then take the ideas that you like and bring them back as your own. You'll also be both surprised and impressed by what people are doing with this art. There are some very good APIs out there, and I wish mine would be as good as theirs. It's possible, but it takes a little bit of work and time and study to get there. Postman. Postman is an industry tool that is that is specifically for APIs. It was originally meant for API developers, so they can actually develop and write their APIs in one place in Postman, and it's very good for that. This is a very capable tool, but it's also an invaluable, required. I would say this is an obligatory tool for API documentation writers, in that you can make and test calls and endpoints from Postman. That's what it's designed to do. It is critical that every API documentation writer makes all the calls themselves personally, preferably in Postman. That's the only way that they're going to truly learn what the calls are. So in addition to making the call, and I'll admit there is there's a big satisfaction out of taking something you've documented, putting it in Postman and seeing it run. You send it out, comes back. I still sort of like that feeling when I do it. But it'll give you a much better, deeper understanding of the calls. It'll also It'll also let you empathize with your client developers, because you know what they're going through to get the results. But in addition to making the call and understanding it, it's also our way of verifying that what the developers are telling us is true. This is really the only way we can do this. So they can have all the specs they want, and they can tell us in meetings what it does. But until you sit down, make the call in Postman, for instance, and see what comes back, you're not sure that what they're telling you is the actuality of the situation. So make the call, see what parameters are, go in, see what comes back, see that everything that comes back is documented. For required and optional parameters, leave some out. If it's marked as required, leave it out and make the call. You should get an error back. If you don't, then maybe it's not as required as they think it is. We're also quasi testers too. So push your endpoints. Make mistakes on purpose. Put a string where a number is expected, and see what happens when you make the call. Is the error message clear? Does it return an error message? Does it essentially ignore the parameter? These are all things that we need to know as writers, so we can adjust our work, and we can also push back on the developers when there's a mistake. Examples. We're in a developer world, and there's no way of escaping examples. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, then examples are worth 1,000 words. So, and this is critically important. So, examples serve two purposes. I touched on one earlier. It shows the example. It shows an example of what the value should be, what formatted it's in. Again, if the clients just look at the example phone number, let's go back to the phone number, and for the example, we see that phone numbers have parentheses around the first 3 digits. That's all the information they may need. They glance at it, know what the format is, then go back to coding. The second point of examples is copy and paste. Developers don't want to read. I mentioned that before. They skim to get out of reading, and we can even get them out of skimming too by putting examples. They want to copy and paste. They want to get to the point, find the code, copy and paste, copy it, put it into their project, and move on. Now they'll know to change. They'll know which values to change along the way. But the point is, they're not retyping a lot of code. Also, we're presenting tested code, so they have the peace of mind that what they're copying and pasting is actually going to work. So important are examples is that in my style guide, I require every field has an example in it. Now, OpenAPI has an example tag that has to be completed, but what I'm talking about here is that there has to be a visual example in the description tag, so they can see it right then and there with the field. Also, that each request itself must have at least one example. The thing about requests is that real often there's not only one way of doing a request. Depending on the parameters you pass in, it may have different parameter formats and different return formats. So include the most basic or most common one. But if it gets complicated, or if there's a few variations, there's no rule that's saying you're limited to to 1. Put 2 or 3 in there. Again, it visually explains what's going on. And it allows for copy and paste. Now here are some examples of what I'm talking about. So the example 1 is the most simple example you can have. This is address related, line 1, and there's my brief sentence describes the address. That explains everything. Not every parameter is going to be complex and require a involved explanation. This is the street address, and I have an example of a street address. Example 2 gets a little more involved. This is zip code or postal code. Again, the description is brief and to the point. It's just the postal code of the delivery destination, and that's the second important point of what this does. But keep in mind that there can be different postal code formats. So in this case, there's 2. So put them 2. Just looking at the example answers one of their questions. Is zip plus 4 allowed? It is. It is, and they can tell that at one glance. Now this example 3 includes valid values. So list valid values. They have to know all the values. Now, in cases where you have a systematic or periodic list of values, such as state codes, you could put a few, like I do. I put 5, 6, but I reference the source of them. So if they need something else, they can find it. But those are the 6 most common ones, and they probably shouldn't have to go off this page. And there's an example. Finally, example 4 is a little more complex. It's got the first opening sentence. There's more information here, so you can put as much information into the middle section as you want, but follow the same rules. The most important first examples, explanation go down, and finally there's the examples there. Here is an example of an endpoint call. I'm not going to talk about this a lot, but you can see it's clearly marked example. There's an explanation at the beginning. This will do this value. You have to have this value and whatnot. And I include the request body. They can developers can copy and paste this and be gone in two seconds. Finally, this is completely unrelated to best practices. These are just annoying things that you want to watch out for. The first one is Swagger. Don't use Swagger. Never ever use Swagger. It doesn't, for starters, it doesn't even exist anymore. It was discontinued back in 2017, I think. But everyone's using Open API now. Don't refer to Swagger. I don't know why people don't even know what we do use Swagger. Maybe a cool name. Don't, because it doesn't refer to what you think it does. Don't use API writers. That's a developer. We're API documentation writers. The distinction is important too. If you're talking to a mixed group of people, PMs, devs, and others, and you refer to the API writers, they may think automatically that you're talking about a developer. API. This is probably most misused example here. API is a collection of requests or endpoint. A request is an individual endpoint. So don't say use the authentication API to get an access value. The correct term is request. Now there's variations of that, but it's not API as a collection. I say this because words mean things, and we have to use words very specific. We're in a technical environment. We have to use precise words. I say should used too much. Should implies that there's an alternative. This value should be between 1 and 10. Well, no, you're getting an error message because it's not between 1 and 10. So it should not be between 1 and 10. It must be between 1 and 10. And unique is also overused. A lot of people use it almost as filler. The client ID is a unique identifier for the client. Unique doesn't add anything. It's an identifier. The developers will get that value probably from another call, create new client. One of the returns will be client ID. They don't have any say in using it. Doesn't matter if it's unique or not. It's just a meaningless word. And we're also not a literary society. So pick one word and go with it to mean one thing. Lawyers do this a lot. They'll pick they'll define a term. This term means X, and then they always use that term to mean only that one thing. So I've seen in one document, and I've seen this in several places, that they'll refer to an endpoint as an API, which I just talked about, API call, API request, call, and request. No, we can't use elegant variation, different terms to mean the same thing. Same thing with search. There was a few get calls I once saw, and what it does is that it searches for results, it finds, fetches, returns, and gets, and that's just too many terms. Use one term. So that is my concept of learning the theory and writing the documentation. Learning the theory will be much easier to remember, and it'll always be present. So if you learn the theory, you'll adapt to the individual practices.
Yeah, we completely agree with you. And on behalf of the entire documentary team, I thank everyone who has joined this session today, and to Robert, you as well. So the entire session is recorded and will be uploaded soon to our website in case you want to come back and see it at a preferable time. Also, folks, if you are interested in building an awesome API documentation or a format of public or internal KB, Document 360 could be a perfect fit for you. So do give our website a check. So thank you all. We will be back again with another exciting session soon.